2217. And now, telling it like it is, here's Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. Studies have shown that extending the intervals between doses of vaccine has had a negative effect on their effectiveness, especially, she says, in seniors and those with immune systems that are compromised. As chief scientist, Dr. Niemer's job is to provide independent scientific advice to the government, and she has done so. Listen to this from Dr. Niemer. Don't forget, she was appointed Canada's chief scientist by Justin Trudeau, 2015. She is the author of more than 200 scientific journals. She is a member of the Order of Canada. Her qualifications are longer than both of my arms. She is a very, 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 very qualified scientist, particularly in the area of contagious diseases. Dr. Mona Niemer. Here is one of her quotes that she gave to CTV yesterday. Quote, "I am not aware of data showing that there is effectiveness beyond 2 months separation between the two doses. In the past few weeks," she says, "we have seen different studies come out showing that the response to the first dose of the vaccine in the people who were elderly and in the people who are immune compromised is actually not as good, and the effectiveness wanes rather rapidly," unquote. In other words, she says there is data out there, and plenty of it, which indicates that the longer you wait between the two vaccines, the less effective comes the vaccine. Listen to this. Here is one of the bits of data that she is referring to. This is pretty shocking, okay? According to CTV, preliminary research out of the UK indicated that, listen to this, 95% of cancer patients produced an antibody response if they received the second dose of Pfizer vaccine 3 weeks after the first. But only 43% of patients showed the same response if they waited 5 weeks. In other words, these patients showed that if the vaccine was effective, 95% effective, if they got the second dose within 3 weeks. But it was only 43% if it was 5 weeks between. No studies have been done on the effectiveness, if any, on 4 months. That's what our chief scientist is saying. Despite this, and by the way, and we will deal with this, the health authorities know this. They've got this data now. Despite this, tomorrow I and several thousand others will receive our first vaccine shot, but our second will not occur until sometime in July or August, which, according to Canada's top scientist, may very well put our lives at risk. My life and millions of others over the age of 65 and those with other health problems. There is growing evidence that delaying this 4 months will reduce both vaccines to virtually useless. Now, one of the problems there is that many people, after receiving the first vaccine, relax some of the safety precautions. We have been told, well, you know, it's very effective after the first one. Well, is it or is it not? According to our chief scientist, it becomes less and less effective the longer we wait for the second dose. So those people who relax safety precautions, etc., we will be placing our lives at risk. I mean, all of this for one reason, folks. Let's never forget this. Trudeau screwed up the ordering of vaccines so badly that even today, almost 4 months later, we still have almost only 10% of our population vaccinated. Sorry, not vaccinated, half vaccinated. That's a phrase that most of our people, the experts and the media and the politicians, seem to be avoiding. If you've only got one dose, and that's about 95% of everybody who has vaccines, if you only have one dose, you're not vaccinated. You are half vaccinated. Half vaccinated. God bless me, let's tell the truth, just for the hell of it. To be fully vaccinated requires 2 doses, certainly of the vaccines that we have thus far. Canada's top scientist says data indicates that delaying the second shot 4 months may very well greatly reduce or even eliminate the effectiveness of both shots. So when I go get my shot tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I just may be wasting my time. I may be wasting the time of people who are giving me the shot, and I may be wasting the God-blessed vaccine. This is not, I mean, we're not talking about some kook here. We are talking about Canada's top scientist, appointed by Trudeau, a very, very qualified person. As I say, recipient of the Order of Canada, author of more than 200 scientific papers, acknowledged as one of the top leading scientists in the world, our chief scientist. Dr. Niemer says, both Health Canada, listen to this. This is still her saying. Dr. Niemer says both Health Canada and the advisory board have access to this new data, meaning a new recommendation could be on the way. I am sure, she says, they are following this new information and may well be looking at perhaps modulating the recommendations as we go. As data emerges about what it takes to protect seniors and immune-compromised people, we need to be reviewing what we are doing. Listen to this. Dr. Niemer, our top scientist, quote, the very people we want to protect the most require that we give them the second shot using the time frames recommended by the manufacturers, unquote. Translation, in order to ensure the health of seniors, we need to give them the second shot within 21 or 28 days, which is what the manufacturers told us. This is not some, I keep coming back to this. This is not some kook. This is not some wild scientist off somewhere in the depths of Brazil. This is a person appointed by the Prime Minister of Canada as our chief scientist. Order of Canada, 200 scientific journals, professor of this, professor of that, acknowledged as one of the world's leading scientists. And she is telling us that in order to be sure that these things are effective, we need to get our second shot within 21 or 28 days. So why the hell am I and thousands of others going to get our shot tomorrow when the second shot's not scheduled for July or August? In other words, according to Canada's chief scientist, forcing us to wait 4 months between doses places us at much greater risk and may even mean the vaccines are useless. And what she says is that Health Canada now has this new information and will probably be changing their recommended time. Let me just say this. If Health Canada and the advisory board and all the health experts out there with this new data in place, if they don't change the recommendations and make sure that we get our second dose within 28 days at the most, then all I can assume is that they are more concerned about covering Justin Trudeau's ass than they are about protecting our health. Our chief scientist says in order to protect particularly seniors, that suits me, and those who are immune compromised with other health problems, we must vaccinate 21 to 28 days. So I'm going to tell you, if they don't make the change, all they are doing is just making sure that Justin Trudeau wins the next election. rather than making sure that we are properly protected. Folks, I hope that you understand how serious this is. We are investing, God knows, they won't tell us, but you can be sure, billions of dollars. And if in fact this is true, and all of the data that's coming out now seems to indicate that absolutely. I mean, I asked last week, we'll go to I know there are some emails coming in, that's good. I raised this actually more than 2 weeks ago. I said, wait a minute, where is the data that indicates that a 4-month delay is okay? One day we're told it's 21, 28 days, and the next day, like a bolt of lightning from Zeus or something, we're told, oh no, 4 months. Where was the data to back that up? There is no data to back it up. The data indicates that it's far too long. That the second dose may make both doses absolutely useless. Folks, this is important stuff. And one of the things, like there's a cone of silence. CTV carried the story yesterday. I don't see anything in the newspapers today. You would think that Canada's chief scientist saying that, hey, wait a minute, we got to make sure that the vaccination is 21 to 28 days. You'd think that'd be front page news. Well, I mean, the newspapers want to cover Trudeau's ass as well, right? And what a way to do it, right? Protect the truth from us, keep the truth from us. I'm only quoting what the chief scientist said. If we're not, they always tell us, follow the science. We're only following the science. Bullshit. The scientist says, do it within 21 or 28 days. That's what the science says, including our chief scientist. And by the way, and I mean, I'll get to give us the phone number, John. And
absolutely.
And, yeah, please.
The phone number, and we'd love your calls or text 613-413-2217. Email Lowell@blasttheradio.com or just go to blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. You can connect to our video feeds and the podcast and everything there. Blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green.
So once again, John, we have a limited audience because of the format here, but it would seem to me that at this point, at least, I am the only one that is providing this info. Well, those watching CTV, I'm not sure if CTV News covered this last night. I was watching the hockey game instead. But, I mean, it would seem to me that this is important news. This is vital news.
Well, it sounds like it just sort of landed in her lap as they were interviewing her, too, right?
I'm not sure. I didn't see the interview. But, I mean, it's a rather extensive story that CTV has published.
Yeah.
But when the chief scientist says, wait a minute, quote, the very people we want to protect the most require that we give them the second shot using the time frames recommended by the manufacturers, unquote. In other words, she is saying you must, for seniors and immune compromised, you must vaccinate the second shot 21 to 28 days, which is what the manufacturers recommend. This is coming from the chief scientist. So why am I going tomorrow for a shot, and thousands of others will join me, 80 plus tomorrow? God bless us, we've survived this long. But why are we doing this when, in fact, if all we do is get our second shot July or August, that may nullify that neither one of them is any good, why are we bothering? And there's something, and then I will get to the messages, but there's one other thing that I find very disconcerting. We are being told, and the media seems to be covering this new AZ AstraZeneca vaccine, the stories say, is 79% effective. Oh, really? Okay, would that be like 79% effective after the first shot? Or is it 79% effective after the second shot? And is it 79% effective if the second shot doesn't come until 4 months later? Why won't the health authorities tell us this? 79% effective, it says. Tell us the whole freaking story. Less and less do I trust the health experts. And, of course, the politicians are taking their advice from them. Except here we have the chief scientist. Let's see if they pay attention to her. This is incredible. 79% effective. Oh, could we have the whole story, please? Give us the whole freaking story, please. 79% effective after the first shot, or 79% effective after the second shot? And how effective if the second shot doesn't come for 4 months? Is it effective at all? They won't tell us. What kind of a game is being played here? Honest to God. John, you've got some text coming in.
Yeah,
here.
I've got a question of my own, and I mean, I don't know if you even have the answer to this, but my question is, okay, so you get the first vaccine, and then you don't get your second until 4 weeks later.
4 months. 4 months.
I beg your pardon. 4 months later.
Yeah.
Is there any scientific research that's been done to say if the first vaccine is then null and void, do you then have to get a third shot?
Well, they won't deal with that. This is the point. According to our chief scientist, she says there is now growing data which indicates that the longer you wait between the doses, the less effective is the vaccine. After 3 weeks, 95% effective in the one test. After 5 weeks, only 43% effective.
So you
How
could
effective
very well
would
be
it be?
looking at 3 or 4 shots before you are actually vaccinated properly.
Well,
For all we know.
I mean, what I guess the point is if it's reduced that much, if it's reduced from 95% after 3 weeks down to 43% after 5 weeks,
Jeepers.
how much is it reduced to that down to 4 months? The facts, the figures would indicate to me that it's probably useless.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's what essentially, while she doesn't come right out and say it's useless, what she is saying is that the data indicates, well, she says the effectiveness wanes rapidly.
And that's my question.
Wanes
Are you back
rapidly.
to square one if you don't get the second vaccine on time? And it sounds like that's probably a probability.
Yeah, well, precisely. She says the data. She says, quote, I am not aware of data showing that there is effectiveness beyond 2 months. Okay? If there is a separation of the doses. In the past few weeks, we've seen different studies showing that the response to the first dose of the vaccine in the people who are elderly, people immune compromised, is actually not as good, and the effectiveness wanes, quote, rapidly. Wanes rapidly. Yes, John.
You have certainly created a bit of a poop storm. Here we go.
I hope so.
You have. Hazel says, I watched her 2 days ago on CTV telling exactly what you're saying. Bottom line, Trudeau did not get enough vaccines and therefore will not have enough to do second doses. Randy says, Dr. Isaac Bogach, I apologize if I butchered that name, just hinted to Evan Solomon hours ago that this is being looked at and is possibly going to change.
Well, that's what she says. She says, the chief scientist says they've got to change it. The data is there now. They've got to change it, which means just think of all of the work now. They're going to have to rebook our second shot for, tens of hundreds, millions of people. They're going to have to rebook the second shot. But why did they do this in the first place? And John, you remember, maybe it was about 2 weeks ago I first raised this, and I started yelling, and I said, where is the data that indicates it's okay to wait 4 months? Where is the data? I pointed out that there couldn't be any data because we didn't have anybody who had vaccine for 4 weeks. So there was no data available. Where did they get this 4 month figure from? I'd like to know that. I'd like to know who the hell came up with this 4 months and said, oh, it's fine, it's fine. And then immediately, so-called all of these health experts, PhDs and are coming out there yin-yang and saying, oh, yeah, okay. Like, who said this? I mean, did as I say, did Zeus come down from heaven and strike every scientist and every health expert with a bolt, say 4 months is okay? Is that where they got it from? Beats the hell out of me. I'd sure like to know. Where did the 4 months come from? I've asked this of a number of people, politicians. Nobody will give me it. Nobody knows. Nobody knows where the 4 months came from. Very clearly, it was bullshit. Sorry to use the phrase, folks, but I can't think of a better one to describe what's happening here. And my wife, God bless her, Debbie, very upset. She said, Lowell, those of us who are seniors, we have worked so hard. We've helped to build this country. It was our generation that built the hospitals, or many of them, the schools, the roads, et cetera, paid our taxes, obeyed the law, and all the rest of it. And this is the way we're being treated. Thousands of us die in long-term care because we can't afford to pay people to look after us. And now we're told, oh, well, you can wait 4 months for your vaccine, even though it may cost you your life. That's the way we're being treated. I'm sorry. But in this case, it's not just seniors. I think that if this holds true for seniors, that we must have it much sooner, that in all probability, there's a good deal of truth for everybody. 4 months is too long. Where is the scientific data that indicates that it's safe? Oh, I got to calm down here. And where the hell is the media on this? Why is the media covering Justin Trudeau's ass? I'm surprised at the Ottawa Sun. I don't understand why the Sun wouldn't have this as a headline story. Chief scientist says 4 months too long. Chief scientist says got to have second shot 21, 28 days. Why is the media not covering this? Well, I can only assume that $600 million that Trudeau has given them, I guess, is pretty effective, right? I hate to say this, folks. I've been a journalist all of my life. I've started a newspaper in this town, which is now the Sun. I'm really, really, really disappointed. All right. One place I'm not disappointed. Thank you, John. I'm not disappointed in John, who tries to calm me down
that's
here.
That's nice to hear. Yeah. Okay, good.
And give me signals. We've got to talk about our sponsors. God bless them.
Yes, we do.
Shields. Folk, we're still getting really, really rave reviews on the kind of service that Shields provides. Yes, they're up there in a little town of Pakenham, Valley Town, but they have a very large warehouse absolutely filled with all of the brand names, colors, price ranges, et cetera, which means that they can deliver immediately. No long delays. And many people are commenting on it. Hey, I got mine within 2 or 3 days, got delivered right to my door with a very kind, very helpful driver. Keep getting comments about the drivers. And don't forget, folks, the government rebate program ends the end of this month. And God bless Justin Trudeau. Anyway, I better be careful here. His carbon tax increases 33 or 50% or whatever the hell it is come April 1st. So buy now, folks. Save yourself some dough. Yes, John, more comments here.
All right. Take a break, Lowell. Catch your breath. I got a lot of reading to do. Here we go.
Fire away, my boy. Fire away.
A text at 613-413-2217. Barry says, Lowell, 1 year the flu vaccine was at 50% effectiveness, and my doctor wouldn't administer it because it was only at 50%. Todd says, Trudeau is trying to cover his ass for sure. He messed up this vaccine procurement from the very beginning. He's the most incompetent PM this country's ever had, worse than Kim Campbell even. Keith says, what the hell happened to science-based policies? As you say, there is no science to suggest they go delay the second shot by 4 months. I would say the Liberal policies are based on whatever saves Justin's ass. Peter says, surprised Justin has not fired her. Speaking of Dr. Niemer. Rick says, this is not recommended by experts. It's all about fudging the numbers before Trudeau's precious election. Your health comes last, says Rick on Facebook. And says, hubby received his first shot March 3rd, gave an appointment for second shot April 3rd, now rescheduled for June 26th. Tim says, delaying it 4 months reduces the effectiveness of the vaccine, but improves the chances of Trudeau getting reelected. And says, Trudeau screwed up, and this is the snowball effect. Julie, watching on Twitch, says, those are scary stats. My mom, with her liver issues and dementia, it would be crucial for her to get both. Ugh, what a mess. Thank you, Julie. Mike says, isn't that exactly what Quebec is doing, trying to give everybody one dose, hoping more will come in by the time they get everybody done?
Yes.
Angela.
In fact, in Quebec, my understanding is that not one single person has received a second shot. This is in order, of course, to make the Quebec government look good. They can say, everybody's vaccinated. But they keep forgetting, folks. If you haven't had the second shot, you haven't been vaccinated. You have been half vaccinated. And it's the same right now. We have about 10 million people vaccinated. So it's about 10% of our population. Okay. But they haven't been. Almost all of them have only been half vaccinated. And of course, come the June election, Trudeau is going to stand there and puff out his chest and beat himself on the chest and say, we have 90% of our people are vaccinated, when in fact they would only be half vaccinated. But you know what? The ass-kissing media, in all probability, will fail to mention the fact that if you haven't had 2 doses, you're not vaccinated. You're half vaccinated. You know what? One day, when Bob Chiarelli was mayor of Ottawa, one day he came in and he declared Lowell Green half-ass day. It was a joke because the next day was he named for me, but a half-ass day. Well, maybe we should have half-assed vaccination day, because that's what we're looking at here. Yes, John, go ahead.
It's like a vaccine appetizer. Maybe it's like a vaxitizer. This is what we coined the phrase. Thank you for your text. We'd love your calls, too, by the way. 613-413-2217. Bruce in Harrow, Ontario says, there you go again, Lowell, telling it like it is. I thank you for all you do for us. P.S. 30 minutes per day, simply not enough. Another text coming in. The health puppets changed the time element from the second shot because the idiot didn't order in time to get the proper amount that we need to administer as directed by the producers.
Well, yeah, actually, you're absolutely right. In fact, Health Canada has even admitted that publicly, that they admitted during an interview that if they had sufficient vaccines, they would not be delaying 4 months, that they would give the second shot 21 to 28 days. They admitted that we're doing this because of a shortage. And of course, there's a shortage because Trudeau didn't do his job properly. Still hasn't. Yes, John.
On Facebook, your friend Tom Toomey says, hi from Florida. Carrie just got her second shot today, and I got my second shot Sunday.
Yeah, so you see, the Americans, they're not delaying 4 months. The Americans, in fact, I forget the latest figure, but there are 30 or 40 million people in the United States have already received their second shot, which is roughly the population of Canada has already received their second shot in the United States. Here we're still fumbling around with about 10% of our population. Yes, John.
Angela says, why has the mainstream media not run with this? They have to keep quiet to get their money from Trudeau.
Well, CTV, I mean, this story appeared on CTV. Now, keep in mind, television stations did not receive any of the $600 million. But television stations have other reasons to kiss Trudeau's ass. They've got to go to the federal government for rate increases if they want to buy other stations, et cetera, et cetera. They've got to make sure that Trudeau's ass is well kissed. But in this case, CTV, God bless them, they're the ones who carried the interview with our chief scientist. Yes, John.
Chrissy, watching on Twitch, says, why play with people's health? Why can't we get an honest answer about the second shots? What is the point of all this then? And she adds, grr. Macaulay says, I'm very fortunate to have been fully vaccinated since mid-January with the Pfizer vaccine. Right on. Jealous. Nina says...
Now, let me just respond to that.
Of course.
Actually, my wife raised this issue. For the most part, those people in long-term care have received the 2 doses. Good. But there are millions of us who live in our own homes who are just as old and perhaps have just as serious health problems. And we don't have that same privilege. We are told we got to wait 4 months, which may make the vaccines, according to our chief scientist, virtually useless, perhaps totally useless. So I just throw that out as one more thing that is a real insult to seniors in this country and immune compromised people. It's a real insult to us, no question about it. In other words, what he's saying is everybody over 65 in this country, you don't really count. We don't give a damn flying fox fart about you. We'll make you wait 4 months, and if that doesn't work, if that's what kills you, tough titty. Yes, go ahead.
Facebook, Twitch, very, very busy. Again, the number here is 613-413-2217. Happy to squeeze in a call before we go. Nina says, not only did Trudeau's incompetence put millions of lives at risk, but so did the 39 to 40% of Liberal voters. If Canada had a skilled leader, we would not be suffering from this pandemic. We'd be thriving and getting on with our lives. God protect us from the Liberal votes in the next election. Anthony says, but there is data to support these useless lockdowns. Lisa says there's so much misinformation about these vaccines, about when the majority of us will get them and their effectiveness. The Scam-Tam team and Trudeau's bunch of hapless idiots don't give me lots of confidence. Cheryl says the media does not think so. They're tripping over themselves, trying to put up a positive spin on the Trudeau vaccine disaster. Anne says the media is more concerned about Aaron O'Toole's climate plan. Chris says,
yeah, that's very true. Yeah. All the good things that came out of that convention, the conservative convention, and what does the media concentrate? Voted down. I mean, it's a hopeless situation. We've got to get in a word here for our other good friends at Centennial Glass. Just once again, folks, reminds you that our dear friend Justin Trudeau increases the carbon tax by 33, 50%, or 100, I don't know. He increases the carbon tax by a hell of a lot come the April 1st.
Like a week from now, right?
Yeah. So, look, if you want to save yourself some money, and who doesn't, and you're thinking that you need windows, doors, or even thinking about it, give Centennial Glass a call. Save yourself some money. Even if you just have some plans or an idea, you know what? If you just have an idea, come to Centennial Glass. They'll help you draw up the plans. They'll give you some ideas. They'll give you the best prices. They'll give you some options. They're good people at Centennial Glass. If it's glass, Centennial Glass here in Ottawa on Industrial and in good old Renfrew. Don't forget Centennial Glass in Renfrew. Yes, John.
5 quick comments to close out the show. Chris says, doesn't matter how irresponsible he is with Canadian lives, he's going to kill with complete disregard. Pick a card, any card. Economic death from small business, or for small business, senior isolation, mental cruelty, lack of vaccines, manipulating dosage. Randy says, the 4-month idea started in BC or Quebec. Then we all followed. Terry says, at Trudeau's next presser, he'll bring out data from Star Trek. Thank you, Terry. We can always count on you for a giggle. Lisa asks again, what do we have from the $56 million Trudeau gave VBI vaccines on Hunt Club? Did we ever look into that?
Yes, I did. And apparently they are developing a vaccine. Should be available in 2042 or something like that.
Okay, perfect. And Madge asks, why don't we make vaccines here in Canada?
Well, we are. And we could have, by the way, we could have had Canadian-made vaccines already produced if the Trudeau government had given them the assistance they needed. But let's be honest. I mean, let's remember, Trudeau was screwing around with China, our good friends in China. Okay, good friends in China, and he was trying to negotiate with them, and as a consequence, just ignored virtually everything else. And we're now paying the price. Why he would want to cotton up to the Chinese government beats the hell out of me, but apparently the majority of Canadians think it's hunky-dory. Thank you all, folks. Good response today. God bless you. We'll be back.
Lowell Green, live on blasttheradio.com. Show info and links at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Subscribe to the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and more. Or ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. Join us live weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on blasttheradio.com.